So I thought today I'd talk a little bit about how my experiment in the polytunnel has gone. Now normally I have quite a simple planting plan for the polytunnel. It's basically in the summer, so May through to October, I have all of my summer crops, so my cucumbers, peppers and tomatoes in here. And then in winter I mainly have salads and spinach in here. And there's a few sort of tweaks to that which I'll show you as I go around, but basically that's the general planting plan, and it's nice and simple and it's easy to deal with. But it struck me over the years that I'm kind of wasting the polytunnel in the period kind of February through to May, and I was thinking, well, maybe I could get another crop out of the polytunnel during that period by interplanting things into the salad and the spinach bed. And then by sort of March time, I don't need that salad and spinach, and I never have done because my outdoor beds have taken over. And so those beds basically just get, most of what's in them just get pulled up and composted. It does mean that I have a relatively smooth run in to the spring planting in here, but I do try and do a few bits and pieces. So over the years I've tried putting a bit of kale in, a couple of cauliflowers and things like that, but I've never really seriously changed the planting plan. So this year everything is very different, and I was trying to think of how to describe the change, and I suppose what I've tried to do here is try and make the polytunnel like a mini allotment. So it's got kind of almost everything in here that we grow on the allotment, but just in kind of small quantities. So it's just like a slightly early version of the allotment, and to be honest, I've had so much fun growing in here like this, and I think I'm going to do it again, although maybe with a few little tweaks to the planting plan. So first up is the carrots in these containers. So I sowed these carrots in November, and only a couple of them have gone to seed, and you might be able to see one that's gone to seed there as well. But I'm working my way through them pretty quickly, and they are absolutely gorgeous. They're the best carrots. I think, the first carrots are probably always the best carrots you've ever eaten, but because you just forget from year to year. So anyway, so that's those. Now then I've got the beetroot, and that has done pretty well. I mean, it's starting to bulk up a little bit now, but what I realised is that really I cannot get a crop of beetroot out of here full size before I need to put the tomatoes in. Now I put the tomatoes in at the back here, so I think in future I'll just put radish or something in at the back and have beetroot at the front. And I've got the turnips, and they're coming on really nicely, and so it'll only be a few weeks before those turnips are ready. And I interplanted those turnips with leeks, and the leeks are doing splendidly, and they're only summer leeks that were put in for an early crop, but you can see here that the turnips are coming on great, and so they're only a couple of weeks away. And so I'm pretty confident now that when I take these turnips out, these leeks will be fine, and I won't have caused them any problems. And then I'm going to interplant into these gaps here, probably with something like spring onions. So next down here I've got carrots, and again, I'm pleased with those. It's not particularly impressive, but they've all germinated, and I have actually tried growing carrots in the polytunnel in the past, and they've actually done just fine. So I'm pretty pleased with those. And again, down the centres here I'm probably going to put spring onions, and then you can see that I've started to clear, and I'm just putting the odd tomatoes in, and these are actually my test sowing of tomatoes. So they're a bit further on than the ones that I was planning to put in here, because I was planning to plant in here late May, but they're all spares, so I thought, well, I'll stick them in, and if they thrive then that's fine, and if they don't, well, that's fine as well. So here I've got a little bed of celery, and again this is going to be in front of the tomatoes, which are going to go in the back, effectively where those calabrese are going to be. So then it's a bit complicated now to see, but basically there was lettuce and spring onions in this bed, and there actually are still lettuces and spring onions in there. But in February I interplanted these calabrese into this bed, and I was like, can I get a crop from these in time? And I think the answer is yes, I can. So I'm pretty pleased with those. Now most of these now are hearting up, so it's only going to be maybe 1, maybe 2 weeks before I clear this whole bed, and again I'll have tomatoes in here. So what it's going to look like is basically I'm going to have tomatoes in there in the next week probably, and then I'm going to have tomatoes in here a week later, so after 2 weeks from now. So what else have I got? So I've got beans, so I've got my early French beans and early runner French crosses in here, and they're all doing pretty well. There's a little bit of frost damage on the odd leaf, but not too bad. Some more carrots down there, again doing really great. Most of my carrots though are actually out there, and they're doing even better. I do find that the ones in the polytunnel, they sometimes get a little bit of downy mildew on the leaves. That's why I've moved most of mine outside, where I don't think I'll have that problem. And then I've got my early courgettes, and actually got an early courgette there. I'll probably pick that one because you kind of want to encourage the plant to start throwing out as many courgettes as it can, and if you just leave them on, then it kind of stalls the growth a bit. So then this has worked brilliantly, which is the strawberries. It's been so cold at night, so not many of them have coloured up yet, but maybe you can see just that little tiny bit of colour here. There's the first one. So I'm only about probably another week away from picking strawberries, and I've put in a lot more than I have done in the past. I've tried other things in these hanging baskets, including tomatoes and things, and they've not really worked very well, but the strawberries always work really well. And so I'm really happy with those, and those provide me with my breakfast in a few weeks' time, and I'll be picking mange tout peas and strawberries for breakfast, which I absolutely love. So I've got another courgette. I do find that courgettes, of all the cucurbitates, they do the best in the cold weather of the polytunnel, you know, because it's still frequently getting below zero in here at night, and I do cover these with fleece, but yeah, it's pretty cold. And then of course I've got my potatoes, and I've got some potatoes in my little greenhouse as well, and I've got some in the conservatory. So we've done a lot more potatoes than we've ever done before, and again they're doing really well. Really pleased with these. These are almost ready for harvest now, so they're looking a little bit rough. And then under there you maybe see I've got some spring onions, and they are, although they're kind of squashed down and all that, they are absolutely fine. We harvested some the other day and they were so crunchy and crisp, really lovely. So back to this theme of having a little bit of everything. So I've got a little bit of mare's tail, which I have everywhere else on the allotment, so why not have it in the polytunnel? So these are, in theory, early garlics. Now, whether they'll turn out to be early or not, I don't know, but I'll see how they go. They do get a little bit of shade from here, but of course they get more warmth, so it's, I don't know, we'll see what the result is, but it may be that garlic likes the warmth more than it likes the light, maybe the other way around. So it's an interesting trial, but it's just nice to have, you know, all these different things going here, rather than the kind of monoculture of salad and spinach, just having all these different things. And then I've got salads. I'm still harvesting these salads that are underplanted in this bed, and spring onions. This bed was absolutely heaving with spring onions not long ago. I've nearly finished harvesting those now. And again, I've got little calabreses coming all the way down here. Some of those were started back in November and some of them in January. And then more spring onions calabreses. Now, in theory, I had some cauliflowers in here, but it turned out that I must have mislaid my cauliflowers. I don't know what happened to them. So they're all calabrese, but actually I prefer calabrese to cauliflower, so I'm not really complaining. And then, in theory again, early onions interplanted with garlic. So this is garlic down here, and then onions around, and you can see hopefully towards the back there where there's more sun, they're bulbing up really well. So right now we've run out of onions in the store, so we're kind of picking these like little ones at the moment and just leaving some of the others to bulk up. And of course I still have my little grow bench, so I'm still doing plenty of seedlings. In fact, I'm planting quite a lot of those out today. And although I am doing my tomatoes a lot later this year, I did decide I would just do a couple of these Lata, and these are doing quite well. They're not as advanced as I thought they would be, but you know, they've still got decent sized trusses on them. I'm quite pleased with those. So yeah, I'm just going to grow these in containers and just see how they do. I've got 2 of those, and I'm just starting my carrots off in here. So I'm starting them in here and then I'm moving them outside about this time really, when they're just a little bit more robust. So what I'm also doing is I'm just trying out lots of interplanting ideas, and so one of them is interplanting into this beetroot some parsnips. So I've popped them in the gaps between the beetroot, and they've all germinated, and the hope is that in about 3 weeks time, when I harvest these baby beets, these parsnips will just grow on from there and be happy enough. Now they are looking a little bit leggy, at the moment, but we'll see what happens. But that's my idea anyway. I'm going to harvest these baby beets, and then I'll interplant something where the beetroot was back, so that I'm using up the space between the parsnips. And that's the general theme then for all of this bed in front of the tomatoes. It's just going to be used for all sorts of different crops, in this kind of spirit of a little bit of everything in the polytunnel. And the reason I'm trying this out is because, there'll come a day when I'm too old to manage a complete allotment plot. And so I'm gradually moving the allotment plot over to perennial crops that take less effort. And maybe one day I'll try and grow most of what I want to eat in the polytunnel and in a big greenhouse at home, and most of the rest of the allotment plot will just be things like potatoes and onions and fruit and things like that. So we're just kind of playing around with these sorts of ideas, and it's, as I said before, it's just so much fun. So if you want to know a little bit more about how I grow under cover, then if you look in the basics section of my ebook, which is free and there's a link in the description, and the section growing under cover, so that gives you loads more videos all about growing in coal frames, low tunnels, polytunnel, etc. And if you want to know more about year-round growing, then take a look at my year-round growing guides as well, and that covers all sorts of different types of veggies and how to get them all year round, including carrots, which is one of my particular favourites that we eat pretty much every day of the year. And there's loads more in the ebook. Just take a look, browse around. As I say, it's all free. So I hope you like this quick video. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.